I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, welcome. It is time to continue our discussion on EARTHDAWN. We were talking about disciplines. I've got some more information to discuss about them, important things you should know about when choosing your discipline. So let's start out with talking about the various circles of a discipline. We've talked about being a first circle initiate. You move on from first circle and start gaining new titles as you learn more and become more initiated into your discipline. If you are becoming a second circle, you become a novice. Fifth circle, you become a journeyman. At ninth circle, you become a warden, and you've begun to unlock the secrets of your discipline and are aware of many of them. And then you become a true master of your discipline when you hit 13th circle and above, and then people refer to you as master. Now, you can teach another person in your discipline if your circle is higher than theirs. Then you are able to instruct them and help them to gain more knowledge and hopefully gain a circle. Now, as you gain circles, you of course gain new abilities, new talents, new skills, new spells. Especially if you're a spellcaster, every time you gain a circle, you gain access to a new spell. Now let's move on from talking about the circles you're going to have and talk about half magic, because this is very important to talk about. Half magic is something that your characters are going to have that isn't reflected in anything like a discipline, a skill, a spell, anything like that. This is actually any of the other kind of abilities or things that you should know for just being in your discipline. A good example of this is, let's say you're a beastmaster. Your half magic would be able to use the ability to do veterinary. You have to help a sick animal. There are no skills or any kind of talents which are going to directly result in using this veterinary ability on this thing, but because you are a beastmaster, you should know about that. This is, again, not reflected, but if you need to make some sort of check on that, that is where half magic comes in. It is the general abilities that you gain for part of being a discipline, which are sort of magical, but yet not, because they are based around more your experience in the discipline. That's a great way of saying it. And your discipline, since it is magic-based, it is almost magical, but yet it is not. Now let's talk about using half magic. Now the thing is, when you're using your half magic, it is going to be based around your circle. Your circle depends on how much knowledge you have in this. You will take whatever your circle is, divide it in half, and round up, and that's what you get. So first circle, you of course get +1, and that is your rank in half magic. Now you add this to an attribute of your game master's choice that is appropriate to whatever you're doing. So you want to do something that would be reflected in half magic, something that you are aware that your character should be able to do. For example, the veterinary work. Your game master will tell you what attribute would be appropriate to add to your half magic rank, and it would be your attribute's step then added to your half magic rank to come up with the final step that you'd use on this check. Now, you can also use this to substitute certain skills. If it is a skill that you do not have that should be sort of in your discipline's repertoire, for example, if you think about it like you should be able to do this because it is in your discipline, but you have not put any levels into that skill. You have not done anything specially in it. You could still roll it using your half magic if your GM again approves and says like, yes, it makes sense that you should know something about this or should be able to do a little bit of that. Just because you're in that discipline, it makes sense. Now let's move on from there and let's start talking about the entries that you're going to see, the descriptions of every discipline, because as soon as we're done that, we can talk about the disciplines. Now the first thing you're going to have to see is the relevant attributes to your discipline. These are the attributes that are going to be very important for your characters to have. It will name a few, whatever ones you would need as your character. After that, we move on to the karma ritual. This is the common karma ritual that your character will have to do in order to regain karma. It is reflecting the basic kind of idea of whatever discipline you have. Then we'll move on and talk about the common artisan skills to your discipline. Now, as I previously stated in another episode, artisan skills are actually really important. Someone that can do art is reflected as not being corrupted or taken over by horror. Horrors, they can't make art just from the way that they can. They intrinsically can't do it. So that's why you have an artisan skill. This lists the common ones to whatever your discipline is. Now, of course, you could have one that be more appropriate to your character. You would talk with your game master if you want to take a different one. Now, next up, we have your talents and abilities as your discipline. This has your discipline talents first off. These are the talents that your discipline will mainly get. These are ones you're going to be choosing from. They're your core of abilities that your talent that your character will have. Granted, you're probably not going to have all of them. You're going to choose them as you want to, develop them as you need to. You might only have certain ones. That's where some of the customization of your character will come in, is depending on what your basic talents are, the ones that your characters will all have access to, the main ones that you're going to want to have as your discipline. Now, there's also then talent options. Talent options are sort of a list of optional talents that you can kind of add into your pool. Every time you gain a circle, you choose another one from the list of options to add into the ones that you have access to for learning abilities from. These are ones that sort of open up your specialization within your discipline just a little bit while keeping you within the purview of the discipline, but it also gives you some options too that maybe you're going to be slightly different from that. For example, if you're the Beastmaster, that maybe my Beastmaster is different from my friend's Beastmaster because we have taken different talent options as we have gained circles. I gained a different ability completely different from him. That could be the very well. And then there is, of course, after this, discipline abilities. Discipline abilities are general abilities that aren't talents, that aren't skills, that aren't really anything that any other discipline will be able to take. These are specifically to your discipline, or discipline abilities. They are linked intrinsically to you and only to you. You gain them, and when you gain certain circles, you will be able to look at the discipline abilities here and see what you get when you get them. Now, there is an optional rule that you could restrict some of these disciplines to certain races, but this is very optional depending on what your game master thinks is appropriate to how he's building the world. Now, let's briefly talk about versatility again, because versatility is the human ability to take disciplines from other talents. This is much more open than the talent options that you'd have. Effectively, the talent options does give you some options to customize your discipline the way that you believe it should be. But when you have versatility, you can bring in things that are way outside this purview. So there is still an advantage to versatility, even though talent option adds a little bit of this. It's just talent option is still a restricted list. It's just a list of things you can choose from. Now let's talk about some things that your discipline gives you. Disciplines give bonuses to character bonuses. It gives bonuses to defense, initiative, and recovery. Different disciplines will give you different bonuses to any of these three. Of course, your disciplines will talk to you about the spells you get and when you get them and information such as that. It will give you information on that. It will tell you the karma bonus that your character will get for different circles in your discipline. Now, there is two more bits of information that are very important. First off is your attribute-only tests. Now, an attribute-only test is a test that you only roll your attribute step for. That's all you do. There is no skills, no other bonuses to it. A great example of this would be having to push a boulder. It would be a strength-based test, and that's all you're doing for that attribute. Just strength. There is no other kind of skill or anything you can add to it. These are going to depend on the attributes which were important for your discipline, and the disciplines will talk a little bit about these that you may need. So if your discipline is strength-based, it will talk about some of these ones that you're going to be very good at and you should be doing. You know, you're going to be doing the strength-based ones. Also, it will talk about half magic, of course. It will give you a list of some ideas of different things that you can use half magic for your character. What would fit in the purview of what your character may know and be able to roll half magic for. So that's it for today. I talked about the rest of some basic information about your character. I started with talking about the circles that you're going to be getting and a little bit of information about the various different ones. I talked about half magic then and when you would use that. And then I moved into talking about the description of the disciplines, which I've finished up. Next episode, we dive into the meat of the actual disciplines and we start talking about the different ones, giving you a bit of information about each one of them and what it would mean to play one of those. I won't dive into too much detail about each of them, just enough that you recognize what it means to be part of that discipline. So if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel, the Empire, and the work I do. And if you want to give some extra support to the Empire, please check out my Patreon link in the description below. But until the next time, I bid you farewell.